Welcome to the Hopefulist, a daily talk show hosted by veteran broadcaster Wendy McClure. Join Wendy each day as she shares her life lessons that transformed her from perpetual pessimist to the ultimate hopefulist. The perfect morning show to get you caught up on the day's top stories while sharing insights that will lead to positive transformation and bring out the hopefulist in you. For more inspiration, visit hopefulist.com. And now, here's your host and hopefulist, Wendy McClure.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you for joining me today. It is, I wish it were a cocktail Friday, Thursday, and we're probably going to have a couple cocktails today because we are going to the Phillies game. So excited. It's a day game. They used to call it the businessman special. I don't know if they still do that. On my test run, it sounded like I was coming through normal. I hope that I'm going to sound normal and up to snuff through the entire podcast. Who knows? I have no idea how the quality of this podcast is at any moment. I have requested some technical help. They do not have phone tech help. So I have to just depend on them getting back to my emails. And she just keeps getting back to me saying, please go through the actual help center, which is the left-hand menu. Click on help, and then I can see everything that's going on. Well, I can't figure out where she's telling me to go. There is no left-hand menu, and when I do go on the only left-hand menu that I see, it takes me back to the question that I originally asked, to that area. So I'm not sure what's going on. I have to believe it's on their end because there's times where I sound fine, and then all of a sudden it just kind of fizzles out and starts sounding like crap in the middle of the podcast. So I don't think it's my microphone or my computer. I think it's on their end. But fingers crossed that this one sounds good through the whole thing. We'll see. We'll see. Big day yesterday. Taylor Swift was on Ellen. She didn't perform. It always irks me a little bit when musicians don't perform when they're promoting their music. I know that her album is not out yet, but her one song is, and I don't understand why she just didn't perform it. I mean, I kind of think that's a little bit arrogant when you go on to a talk show and you don't even perform the music that you're trying to promote. But I love my T Swift girl, so I'm not going to be too hard on her. As I alluded to yesterday, I believe that Taylor Swift knows me. If I ever get the chance to meet her, which is doubtful, I'm going to explain to her who I am, and she's going to go, oh my gosh, I do know who you are. It's so nice to meet you. And I really hope that would happen someday. I'm not holding out a lot of hope. I don't think it's going to happen, but here's how I think Taylor Swift knows me. Taylor Swift grew up in the Reading area. She moved to Nashville when she was 8, so she was very young. And she more than likely was listening to the country station because she started out in country. But maybe her friends were listening to the cool rock station. I was on a station called Y102, Rock Hits, and it was in Reading. So if she listened to that radio station and listened to the morning show, I was on a show called Scott, Nick, and Wendy. And it was my very first morning show, and boy, did I suck. I was not good at this radio thing at all. It took me a long time to get a little bit better at it. I'm a little bit better than I was when I was working in Reading. I'm kind of kidding. I'm a lot better, but still have a long ways to go. So I have this dream of one day I will meet Taylor Swift, and I will say, do you remember Y102 and Scott, Nick, and Wendy? And she's going to go, yeah. And I'm going to go, oh my God, I'm Wendy. And she's going to be like, oh my God, I used to listen to you. This is so cool. Not only was I on the radio station, but our picture, Scott, Nick, and Wendy, were on a billboard. So even if she didn't listen to the radio station, not that she's going to remember this from when she was 8, but she very potentially and likely saw my picture on a billboard when she was a child. How cool is that? I'm pretty sure that Taylor Swift knows who I am. Yes, it's very exciting. It's like my biggest claim to fame. So that is my story. She was on Ellen yesterday. She's very funny. Her and Ellen, the way they go back and forth is pretty hysterical. And I'm looking forward to her new album. I don't think her last album was as successful as the one before. So we'll see what happens with this new album. I did listen to the song the day that it dropped. I was in Texas at the time, and I was sleeping over at my niece's house, who is 23 and very much into T Swift. And when I went to bed, I had seen on Instagram that the song was going to drop at midnight. And when I went to bed, it was probably around 10:30 or 11, 10, maybe it was 10. And Samantha went to bed with me. We slept in her bed. And when I woke up the next morning, she was gone from the bed. So I assumed that I was probably snoring or something. So I was getting up. It was early. And so I went out into the living room, and she was on the couch sleeping. And I said, hey, I'm going to get up. Do you want to go into the bedroom and sleep? And she's like, yeah. So she went into the bedroom, and then I sat down, and I was scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, and I saw that the song had dropped, and I saw that my niece had already liked it. So I was like, did you stay up until midnight and wait for that song? And she's like, no, I didn't. She goes, I just happened to be moving from the bedroom to the couch right around, and you have to remember that we're an hour behind Eastern Standard Time, because if it's midnight there, it's 11 o'clock here. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to make as much fun of you now, because that makes a little bit more sense. So, but I love me some Taylor Swift. I was very intrigued with the new song. I haven't listened to it again. I think they were saying it's called Me. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. But I think that's what it's called. And it was very interesting. I liked it. And I don't typically like songs when I first hear them. I usually have to hear them a couple times. And then I'm like, because I don't like music I don't know. I know it's stupid, because there's, you want new music in your life. But for some reason, if I can't sing along to it, it's not as enjoyable to me. So I have to hear it a couple times before I'm like, yeah, this is a song I can sing along to. But I did like this one right off the bat. So moving on, we went out to dinner last night. We went to a place called Raimondo's, and I'm telling you, the food is so good, it should be illegal. This meal was so incredibly good. Now, Raimondo's is here at the Jersey Shore. It's in Ship Bottom, New Jersey, on Long Beach Island. It is open year-round, which is very lucky for us here, and unlucky for us, because they're very expensive. Very expensive. But boy, oh boy, what a meal. Oh, my gosh. So we went, and we actually ran into some friends of ours, which is pretty funny, because I had just talked to her. I haven't talked to her in a really long time. I had run into her at the gym maybe about a month ago, and I hadn't seen her in years before that. And this was a really good friend of mine, somebody I used to hang with every weekend, all week long, all the time. And then we all there was 3 of us, and then we all kind of went our separate ways. And I ran into her at the gym, and I had talked about that at the time, because that was the day I got my really bad news that really threw me for a loop. And so I had said, you have to come over to the house, because she hasn't seen our new house, and have lunch or something. So I had just texted her yesterday morning saying, hey, do you want to come next week for lunch? Come check out the house, whatever. And she texted me back. She's like, yeah, all right. We set up a time and a day to have lunch. And then we were walking in the restaurant last night. She was there with her husband and another couple. So that was pretty ironic. So Joe and I decided to share an appetizer, and it was the meatballs. There were 2 giant meatballs, which is pretty impressive, because usually these very fancy places give you very small servings, but these were gigantic meatballs. And it came in a sauce, of course. And it had on the side whipped ricotta cheese, almost like whipped cream. And he said it was so cold, as compared to the rest, so it was the hot and the cold. It was so good. It was really, really good. So for dinner, Joe had the seafood ravioli, which was stuffed and covered in seafood, and I had the scallop risotto. I love risotto. Gosh, I really discovered risotto late in my life. I still remember the first time I had it. I was with a friend of mine, Frank, and we were in Chestnut Hill. Him and I used to hang out in Chestnut Hill a lot. He loved Chestnut Hill. And there was this restaurant the one day, and we went, and I saw risotto on the menu, and I remember, this is how, it was a long time ago, but I was in my 30s, so it's not like it was, I've been eating it since I was a teenager. But I remember the day before, and this is how you know how long ago it was, Regis and Kelly were talking about it. Regis had gone out to a restaurant the night before and had risotto, and he was just raving about the risotto. So I saw risotto on the menu, and I thought, let me give it a go. Oh, it's like heaven in your mouth. It really is. It's just so good. And these scallops last night were cooked so perfectly. They were like a little singed on the outside, but nice and, firm, but yet had that give. Oh, man, I love scallops. Man, I love risotto. Man, I love meatballs. I probably put on 5 pounds just at that dinner. So good. So good. So when I was on my way into Raimondo's, they have the weekly paper around here called the Sandpaper. And I had written an article over the weekend and sent it in. And Gail, who is the woman in charge of taking the commentary pages, I also believe she owns the paper. She very rarely gets back to me to let me know if I'm going to be published in that week's episode. I'm very podcast-oriented now, in that week's edition of the paper. So I didn't hear from her, so I just learned to just pick up the Sandpaper, which I should be doing anyway, to see if I'm actually in it, which I was. So it's very exciting. The title of my article is In the Blink of a Traffic Light, Long Beach Island Wakes Up. As I mentioned yesterday, this is the last full week of blinking traffic lights here on the island. So I did a whole article about how things are about to change here on Long Beach Island. We're about to be invaded by tourists. And, well, you know what? We have to share. We can't keep it all to ourselves. It's not ours to keep. So... But in the article, I had written that we were probably going to Raimondo's for dinner this week. And I felt like saying to the host there, we actually recommended Raimondo's in this week's Sandpaper. Can we get a discount? I didn't do that, of course, but I think we should have gotten some sort of discount. The main reason I didn't is because I said I would have rather gone to Howard's. Howard's has this French fried lobster that is to die for. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's lightly breaded and just fried to perfection. And it's not like fried shrimp. Like, it's good. It's like fine dining. But they're not open during the week yet. They should be after next week, because next week is Memorial Day weekend already, people. It's coming. It's coming quick. And so they're not open during the week yet, so we went to Raimondo's, and I was certainly not disappointed in the least, as you can tell. But we are very excited to hit Howard's at some point this summer. They are seasonal. They'll stay open on weekends until about Columbus Day, so they're not open for a very long period of time. I'm very food-oriented because, as I mentioned, we are going to the Phillies game today. The weather looks amazing. So excited. It's going to be in the high 70s. I've got my Phillies Fanatic classic red and white pinstripe jersey that I'm going to be wearing. I have a brand new pair of bright red shoes that I'm going to be wearing. And what has opened now at the ballpark, because I'm not really interested in the game, I'm interested in the Shake Shack that we're going to be going to for lunch today. Yeah, I really should be about 400 pounds because I just love my food so much. And I joke when I say I'm not interested in the game. I'm not a huge baseball fan. Like I had mentioned before, I wanted to get into the Phillies this year because I have a little bit of time. I can stay up a little bit later to watch some of the games. I don't get any of the games. My cable package has eliminated me from being able to see any of the games. They used to be on, Channel 17, and you could watch them for free. But now they've moved to this NBC Sports channel, which is not part of my package. But my point is, baseball is a little boring for me, but I think it's going to be a really good game, a really good day for a game. I'm excited to see Bryce Harper in action, see maybe him hit a home run. That would be cool. Making $333 million. I should be able to see something when he's up there at bat today. So we're pretty excited. It's always a fun day at the ballpark. An expensive day, but a fun day. So